Hello, everybody. Welcome to Late Night Football. Welcome to Match Reaction. Well, it's not Match Reaction, actually, but it's a live show. I always forget these ones because, my God, there was a bit of a blooper there. But nonetheless, it's a live Roundup show. We're going to talk about some of the big news that has come out today. There's been a couple of different things that have been mentioned, and we're just going to cover that. So let's get right into it. If you have any comments, put them in the comments, of course, below. We can discuss any questions that you may have. And also, I'm happy to read out any comments that you may have. Maybe you don't agree with what I'm saying. Maybe you don't. Maybe you agree with what I'm saying, or maybe you have an alternate viewpoint. Do put that in the chat, and I would be happy to read that out. So, with that said, let's get right into it. And of course, the big story of the day is Paul Pogba, and he has been provisionally suspended at the moment by Juventus because he had a drug test, and they found elevated levels of testosterone in that drug test, and therefore they believe that he might be doping, and so therefore that investigation will be ongoing. Usually the way this works is that there's two samples that go through. So this is the first one, then there'll be a second one, and if it's in the second one as well, then there will be some repercussions for that, or any kind of further investigations will be done. At the moment, though, it is just a case of the anti-doping agency provisionally suspending. If he is found that he has taken illegal substances, there will be a much bigger suspension or ban coming through. I hope it's not true. I mean, anybody who's ever watched this channel for a long period of time will know that I've always felt Pogba is overhyped and overrated as a footballer. But I hope it's not true, because I wouldn't want any player. I don't want any player to be doing this sort of thing. I hope that he hasn't. I hope it's just these things happen where sometimes one sample comes positive, another comes negative. These things happen. So I hope it's just that and not really something more sinister, because he's still a decent player. And he's had some decent moments. It's just, and that's what I believe. And he's had a very tough year. He's had so many injuries last year. Had to miss the World Cup as well for France. It's been, just sort of came back into the side this season and was hoping to have a big season, and then to have this hanging over him now, it's not going to be easy. It is not going. It is just not ideal, is it? But I hope it's not true. But if it is true, I do hope that he gets the harshest punishments possible, because you do want to take a stand against doping, and you want to make sure that these kind of incidents don't happen. So, like I said, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. I'm not going to say whether he's guilty. I'm not going to say that he's innocent. I'm just going to say that I hope it isn't true. But if it is true, I hope he is sanctioned and punished accordingly, to send out because the right message has to be sent out against these sort of things. And just on a personal note, it's another thing for Pogba to overcome, isn't it? It's another thing for him to to overcome the challenge that he has with the injuries, the drug use, all of that. So I do hope it's not. I know some people in social media like going there about the hyena thing. Like, apparently he's buried a hyena inside the Old Trafford. I mean, I don't like addressing those kind of things. Football curses are real, by the way. I believe in football curses. I believe they are real. But I think this is just kind of like a racial stereotype. If you ask me, it's a bit of a racial stereotype thing, is it? No, he's that kind of thing. I really don't want to talk about those kind of things, and I don't want to what do you call, humor those kind of things either, because, or indulge in those kind of things. It's just it's just rubbish. I think I lost my stream for a second there, but it should come back. It should be working now. So let's wait and see. But anyway, I wouldn't want to humor those kind of things about the hyena and stuff like that. It's never ideal. It's never it's not even funny. It's not even funny. Somebody's probably just making a cruel joke of some kind, and and probably talking about these kind of things. It's just a racial stereotype as far as I'm concerned. That's just all I will say. I've never wanted to indulge that thing. I've never even made a reel about it or anything, because it's just so out there and just so rubbish to talk about things like that. And it's only because the only reason why anybody talks about it is because he's of African origin, and that's why people are talking about that kind of stuff. And that's why I've never spoken about it, and that's why I will never speak about this beyond this point. So I just address that quickly. But let's move on. Let's hope it turns out well for Paul Pogba. Let's hope it's not true. But one to keep an eye on. Like I said, I hope it's not true, but I'm not saying that he is innocent. That's not what I'm saying at all. Nonetheless, moving on with that, there's been some more revelations about Antony. So Antony was sent on a leave of absence by Manchester United, and I think what has happened was Antony had all these things that he wanted to say and all these things that he wanted to do, I suppose. but I think Manchester United didn't want to get right into a soap opera. So maybe the club has said, we're going to put you on a leave of absence. You handle this matter however you feel appropriate, but we don't want to get caught in the storm of it. So we're going to put you on leave of absence, and then you can do whatever you want with your lawyers. And that, I think, is what happened. As soon as he went on leave of absence yesterday, today he's come out and made statements about what's been happening. He's gone, talking about the message. There's been things that he said about what Ingrid and he were doing. I mean, the three women, right? Gabriela, Ingrid, and I think I forget the last person. I think Maria. I think it was. I forget the name of the last person, but the two that are probably the most prominent at the moment are Gabriela Cavalier and Ingrid. And I think he's shared. He was of course talking about what actually happened. I don't want to go into the whole messaging, to be honest. I'm sure you've read it. If you haven't read it yet on Twitter, go do find it and read it. It's very, very interesting and eye opening when you read the kind of things that have been said. And I think he's also shared some WhatsApp chats, some WhatsApp messages that were exchanged between the two. That was also provided. And the reason why those were important is because for a long time, Ingrid was insisting that these were not consensual, that she had never actually engaged in any kind of physical relationship. But those kind of texts, they prove that there was a physical relationship between them, consensual physical relationship between them. And then I think there was some more conversations that were leaked with the agent as well, that was provided. There was like a phone conversation that was leaked online, which was then translated by some folks in English. United Stand did that as well. So a lot of things that have been put out there by Antony and by his lawyers and his agents. They're just putting stuff out there to kind of prove Antony's innocence. Now, again, I will say this, that I'm not going to sit here and pronounce Antony guilty. I'm not going to sit here and pronounce Antony innocent. That is something that the courts have to do. That is something that the justice system has to do. I saw what Mark Goldbit said. Mark Goldbit said that, and he has a little bit of experience, I think, in these matters from his past life. And what he did mention is that just with the volume of evidence that has now been produced, the reality is that no prosecution is going to consider it worth taking to court, and therefore it's possible that the case will likely be settled out of court, or that might be thrown out, and so Antony might come back to football soon. So these all things are possible. Again, this is what he said. I'm only providing for context. It's not what I'm saying. I do believe that due process has to be respected, and it has to be done, and it will be done. Hopefully it will be done soon and quick, but it will it will be done, right? I think the best thing that we can do is let that happen. And like I said, I don't want to talk about it, innocent, guilty, whatever. I don't. What I will say and is that if that evidence is true, well, there's talk of some AI manipulation. I don't think that's possible. I honestly think it's still a bit out there. I don't think AI manipulation for something like this would make sense. It's possible. Anything's possible. I just don't think it's possible. But if the evidence is true, it is very unfortunate. If this evidence is true, it is very unfortunate. And I think what I will do is I will leave that for later. I think I was going to talk about that. I wanted to talk about that, but I think I will wait till everything is sorted, because sometimes we as a community, as a society, we're guilty of jumping the gun. Me as a person, I'm guilty of jumping the gun. So, yesterday Antony was guilty. Today he is innocent. Tomorrow he'll be guilty again. These are the kind of things that people talk about, and I sometimes do that as well. So let's just wait for the final verdicts and final decisions to be announced and to come out, and then I will provide my honest feedback on this whole situation, because I do have thoughts on it, and I feel it's unfortunate. What I will say though is that it's unfortunate how this whole situation has played out, and this is not necessarily the fault of Manchester United. I'm not going to blame Manchester United for this. I just feel that the people that have been involved in this whole situation, there's so much. It's just there are better. That it's just messy. It's just messy. It's murky, and maybe it has to be that way. Maybe that's just the situation. But it always pains me how these things play out, and what happens, and how does it happen, and why does it happen. It's a whole mess, and I don't know what to say about it. I think it's possible that because there's money involved. At the end of the day, there's a lot of money involved. There's money involved because it's somebody. It's just what it is. It's money, and I don't mean that in a sense of, well, Antony is a rich guy and the women are trying to golding and get money out of him. That's not what I'm saying. Antony is earning a lot of money at Manchester United. That is a lot of money for him to walk away from. He's not going to, if he's innocent or if he's guilty, that's a lot of money to walk away from. So you don't walk away from that without a fight. It's money that Manchester United have invested in the player, 80, 90 million pounds, that they don't want to be walking away from. They've already had to give up on Mason Greenwood, most likely. They don't want to be doing that with Antony. So there's a lot of it's money involved, right? And the reality is that the lawyers, agents make a lot of money from Antony as well. So there's money there as well. So it's from that sense, I mean, there's money involved. There's a lot of money at stake here. It's not just the case of when I say that, somebody might just jump and say, well, oh, you're saying that it's because the woman wants to try to extort money out of Antony. That's what I'm saying. um, I don't know I don't know what the truth is, and I don't want to claim to know the truth. But the reality is that even without that, there is a lot of even without that, with whatever, without that doesn't matter. The reality is, just from the outside looking in, this money involved in many factors at play. So that's what that is. We'll wait and see what happens, right? I mean, this thing is an ever evolving saga. Something new always keeps coming up every day, it seems. So we'll wait and see what tomorrow brings on that. But it was interesting, the revelations and the timing of these revelations that happened right after he was sent on leave of absence by Manchester United. I thought that was interesting. I think that has been planned by the club, by the player, by the lawyers, by the agents. I think everyone has kind of done that. There has to be some planning behind this. Because it can't be that he was sent on leave of absence and then the very next day these things come out from Antony. So there must have been some planning behind the scenes for that. That's all I will say for that. Moving on from that, talking about we'll talk a little bit about on-field matters now. We talk a bit about off-field stuff. Laurent Blanc has been sacked as Lyon manager. That's also been come out. It had to happen. I mean, the Lyon fans are not happy. We saw that in the 4-1 defeat to PSG. There were all kinds of, the fans were like talking all kinds of things. The ultras were very unhappy. There was a live session with the fans as well, but they were on the microphone telling the players to do better, that they were not worth the shirt that they were wearing. Lyon fans are some of the most passionate in the world. You know that. It's a hostile atmosphere if you go and play, at Lyon, at the home of Lyon. The fact that PSG went there and trashed them, and the fact that the season has not gone so well, I mean, somebody was going to have to pay for that. The consequences were going to be there, and it's happened. And Blanc has been sacked as manager. The favorite at the moment is Gennaro Gattuso. That's I think what the Mazzio is saying. The Mazzio is saying that Gennaro Gattuso will likely be hired as the new manager soon. I honestly, I mean, again, a club like Lyon, who's a good manager for them, right? That's always the question. They were trying to get Graham Potter. Potter said he doesn't want to go there. Maybe I think the fact is that there was a time when Lyon, one of the big dogs of Europe, to be honest, and now they're seen more as a mid-table club. Even in France, they're seen as a mid-table club. I think they're a bit like Manchester United in France, in that they were great once upon a time, but then years of mismanagement has just kind of pushed them further and further away from even the top pack in France. Forget the top pack in Europe, even the top pack in France now. You don't generally talk about Lyon. You talk about Lille, you talk about Monaco, you talk about Marseille sometimes. But you don't really talk about Lyon as being one of the top dogs. So not that there are many top dogs in France anyway, but no, Lyon, even in that conversation, are not always there. Of course, you talk about PSG, but PSG is the obvious one. But yeah, so there has been a fall from grace, and I think, and I don't see Gattuso as the guy who's going to bring them back. Honestly, I don't think he's the guy. But then you kind of go through who actually is the guy who can help them come back, because who actually wants to. It is a project, right? Lyon is a project. Whoever takes over Lyon, and they've also sold Bradley Barcola for some reason. I don't understand. They've got some very good young players though. Lyon have always had this. They've always had a fantastic academy that produces young players. Very good young players. The question is, who can actually take that team and bring it back to a top 3 position in France, and then possibly at some point challenge PSG for a title. There's not a lot of options out there. There's not a lot of managers that would be interested, not a lot of managers who would want that job. So it always goes back to that question, doesn't it, as to who wants that. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't think Gattuso is the guy who's going to take them back to that level. I don't think so. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't think he can. But then I look around and wonder, well, who can? Right? Who actually can? Who actually would want to take that on? So it's a question there. But nonetheless, let's hope that if Gattuso is signed, that he will do a good job. And I do hope that I don't think he will, but I do hope that he will excel and succeed at the club, because obviously I would like Lyon to do well. I would like, you need some competition as well for PSG, right? And so I do hope Lyon get back to the level that they were, because it's sad to see. But let's see what happens with Lyon, and let's see what happens with the team. But that's on Lyon. And the Germany position, one manager already sacked, Hansi Flick. Now Nagelsmann is still the favorite to become the new manager, but today we got Ralf Rangnick, who said that he's not going to take over the position of Germany. I don't know if he was offered or if there was any kind of talk, but he just came out and said, well, I'm not going to take the job. He's of course manager of Austria, and he said that he's not going to take that position. I mean, I don't know if he was actually offered it, or maybe he was just trying to get ahead of any kind of rumors. Just like, I'm not doing that. This is not for me. It is interesting the way he spoke about it, though. But again, with Rangnick, I think I actually would not even approach him to be manager of Germany. To be honest, I love Rangnick. I think he's a brilliant mind. He's one of the most underrated minds of in world football at the moment. But the reality is, I don't think he's the kind of guy who should be a manager of a football team. I think his work really is above the manager. His work is really in the director of football executive level. That's where he thrives. That's where he excels. I think he's as a manager, he's fairly average, above average. He's not world class as a manager, of course. He's above average. He's a genius. He's a fantastic mind. But the brilliance of a manager is never in how good they are here. It's how well they can communicate what's here to the players. That's the thing. And I think Rangnick lacks that a little bit. I think he's got a lot here, but he can't always translate it to the players. So his job, I think, is more at the director of football level, executive level, where he has freedom to put his ideas down and they get that. I think that is fantastic. I don't think as a manager he's anything. He's that special. So yeah, I wouldn't give him the job anyway. But fair play to him to say that he's not going to take it and he's going to stick with Austria. I think Austria is more his level. I think that as a manager, I think Austria is his level. It's not really Germany for him. On that note, Louis van Gaal also was linked with the job, and he has also said that he didn't say he wouldn't take it. He said he'd be honored to take the job, but the reality is Germany don't hire foreign managers, and I think that's a fact. I think and in fact, think about it: a German team, the German national team being managed by a Dutchman is probably as weird as it can get because German and Dutch football philosophies for so long have been so polar, so polar opposites, right? To go and there's a lot of animosity still after 1974 between the Germans and the Dutch. Not so much as it was back then, but philosophically there is. And to think that a German team could be managed by the German national team could be managed by a Dutch manager is it would be in some ways blasphemous. Again, I'm not claiming to talk for German fans here, but just from the outside looking in, it feels like it would be blasphemous if a Dutch manager became the manager of the German national team. So I don't think it'll happen. And I don't think it should, from the point of view of Germany being as a nation, I don't think it should happen because yes, it happens that from time to time that big nations do hire foreign managers. England are looking at Sarina Wiegman and Pep Guardiola, so it can happen. But I think Germany, the state that they're in at the moment, to then have to say that well, we've not got a good enough manager within our domestic system that we have to go and bring in somebody else from outside, and it's Louis van Gaal. It's not some with all due respect to Louis van Gaal, he's not necessarily a big managerial name anymore. He was once upon a time. I don't think he's necessarily a big name right now. So to bring him in, he's done very well with Netherlands, by the way. In the 2 stints that he's been with them, I'm not going to diss that either. I think he's a fantastic manager. But you're not bringing in an Eric Ten Hag. Let's put it that way. You're not bringing in an Eric Ten Hag. You're not bringing in a Wiegman. Dutch managers who are supposedly in their prime or who've got a lot to give. You're bringing in somebody who was very good once upon a time, but is today probably in that second tier, third tier of managers. And that's not what you want as a German national team, right? You don't want to do that. So I think Nagelsmann is probably the best choice at this point in time. Can't think of anybody else who might be available, who might want the job in Germany. I'm sure there are good managers in Germany. I'm just not sure who else would fit the bill, but I don't think it should be Van Gaal. So that's my opinion on that. But again, he said that that's not going to happen. I don't, and I kind of agree with him. I think it'd be very, very weird if that happened. If he became manager, but we'll see what happens, of course, and we'll wait for an announcement from Germany on that. On that note, and I think the only other one to talk about is Jadon Sancho. Well, and on that, we seem to talk about him every time, don't you? I think we need to take a break from him. But there was a news today about Jadon Sancho. What has been said for Jadon Sancho is that he's looking for a loan move in January and then with a permanent exit in the summer. And I think this goes back again to money, right? Because the reality is, Jadon Sancho to be sold in January, United are going to want 40-50 million pounds for him. As simple as that, they want 40-50 million pounds for him. He is not a player at this moment in time. The money that he is on, there is no way anybody is going to pay 40-50 million pounds for him, except maybe from Saudi Arabia. Somebody might, but the thing is, Saudi Arabia have already got all their ducks in a row in January. I don't think there's any Saudi club that's going to be able to afford to pay 40-50 million pounds and then also pay his salary on top of that. I don't think there's any club. He's not a well-known name, right? He's not a marketable name. He's not that well-known. Like I said, the only club that would have been remotely interested would have been Ettifaq, and Ettifaq also only wanted him on a loan deal. So I don't see that happening. So he has to, if he's going to leave in January, it has to be on a loan deal because United are not going to want to lose money on the deal, and he wants to play football. So it might happen. I just don't, the reality is that if he's already thinking about a loan move, that means he knows he's not going to play much between now and January. Like he's already made that up in his mind. And if he's already made that up in his mind, then I think it's best to let him go. Because you don't want a player that means that he's not willing to fight for his place, right? And I don't like that term anyway, fight for his place. but it's not like Maguire, right? When Maguire is quite obviously not in the manager's plans. He quite obviously does. The director now quite obviously doesn't want him there. He's done everything possible to tell him without telling him that please leave, please go away. I don't want you here, right? That's he's done that. With Jadon Sancho, he's never done that. He's always backed him. He's given him the space that he needs. He's given him the time that he needs to recover. To given him breaks, given him every kind of opportunity. So you know there's never been an obvious indication that Sancho should leave the club. What has happened, though, I think, is that now they've had this falling out because Ten Hag is gone. This guy doesn't listen to me. This guy doesn't want to work hard, and so therefore just go, right. And now it's come to that situation. And so I think Sancho's kind of gone. Well, I've not played a few games. I don't think I just don't see myself starting games and so therefore I want to leave. So I feel it's almost like Sancho's given up, and he's given up on the idea that he could ever be a Manchester United player, like a starter for Manchester United. He's already a Manchester United player, but I think he's given up on the idea that he could be a regular starter for Manchester United. So I just feel like he's given up, and therefore he's made up his mind that I want to go in January. But he knows that in January he can only get a loan deal, so he's like, I'll take a loan. I play well somewhere else, and then hopefully they'll pay 30, 40 million, 50 million, whatever for me, and I can leave the club. And that I think is where we are at now. It is sad because there's so much hype around him when he came. I've got pelters as well from people talking about this, from before. But the reality is, it has just hasn't worked out. I think part of it is that maybe some of us as fans, we were misled about what Jadon Sancho really, who Jadon Sancho really is as a player. Not in terms of his personality, but I think just in terms of his attributes. I think there was a lot of hype without any from people who had not really seen him play, and then they in turn influence other people who had not seen him play in making him believe that this guy is a player that he clearly is not. It happened with Harry Maguire as well. We were told so many things about him that he actually isn't. People. I remember there were talks about how Harry Maguire is a leader and how he's this physical defender. And Leicester fans and people who were less, and I read BTL comments about this, were like that guy is not a player like that. He's nowhere near a leader. He's not a leader. He's not somebody like that. And yet we kept being told that he was a leader because he happens to be a defender who's a bit physical, who's got a bit of physicality about him. So and he's tall and he's got that little bit of thing about him. And so well, he's a leader, right? It's like this English obsession, right? I think it's the same with Sancho. I think he got a few assists. He got a lot of assists in the Bundesliga. He could put some good displays, and he was a winger. So he's a fast winger, somebody who can run past players and really create chances. Whereas maybe he wasn't that sort of player. He wasn't a fast player who could run past defenders. He maybe wasn't that, or maybe he was, but he can't do it in the Premier League. Either way, the reality is it hasn't worked out for him. And if he has given up, right? And I said it yesterday as well. This is an opportunity for Sancho to have a talk and go, I'm going to prove the manager wrong. I'm going to work my socks off. And I think he said to himself, no, I can't do it. And I don't want to do it. And I don't think I'm going to play. And Sancho, to be fair, has been like that, right? Even he left Manchester City when he realized he was not going to be given a place in the team with Manchester City. And once he knew in his mind, once he believed it in his mind that I'm not going to play for Manchester City and that I cannot trust Pep Guardiola, he pushed for a move when he went to Dortmund, right? That's what he did, because he realized that that's where he was going to do, that's where he was going to get game time. And I think that has kind of seeped into his mentality. I think mentality, that's what it is, that he's just someone who he wants to play, but I don't think that he's a guy who's going to fight. He's a bit like a player who wants things to come easily to him. So it's not, if you look back at past patterns, it's not a surprise now that I think about it, that Jadon Sancho wants out of the club and he wants to go and play elsewhere, maybe because he feels he's not going to start here. And maybe that's, and sometimes it is that way. Some people, it's a personality thing, right? It's not right, it's not wrong. It's a personality thing. It's that, some people, and I'm like that sometimes too. When I'm lazy, there are days when I'm lazy and I don't want to work hard at what I'm doing. I want things to come easy to me. So I will do the easy tasks and I will not do the hard tasks, right? And if we have the option where we can just throw a tantrum and leave our jobs and move on to something else, we probably would, but we're not in that luxury, right? So it's the same with Jadon Sancho, where I think he's one of those players where when things are hard, he doesn't want to fight for it. He prefers things to be easy and to come naturally to him. And if it gets hard, he's like, well, it's fine. I'll just move to somewhere else. I just want to go somewhere else. I don't want to fight for this. I want to go somewhere else. And maybe that's just his personality. So that's how he is as a player. And like I said, there's nothing right about it. There's nothing wrong about it. It's a matter of personality. It's a matter of opinion. And that's just what it is with Jadon Sancho. And maybe he can fight his, maybe Ten Hag can convince him to give it a shot. Maybe he doesn't want to convince him anymore. And he said, that's enough is enough. I've tried with this guy and I've tried it for a year. We worked on it. We tried it. And he doesn't have the ability. He doesn't have the mentality to do this, to do what I want him to do. He doesn't have the mentality to try to do what I want him to do. So I'm done. We're out. See ya. And I think that's where that frustration came of leaving him out of the squad, of putting that message out, and to see how he would respond. Can this guy respond? And when he subsequently responded with that message that he put out, saying that this is all a lie, this is not true. That's it. Ten Hag went, I've seen enough. I want to see. You're out. You're done. And Jadon Sancho probably realized, yep, you know what? The manager and I, we're done. We're not coming back. So anyway, that's where we at. Let's see what happens. Let's see how this develops. Will Manchester United agree to a loan move? Will they find somebody to take Sancho on loan with the conditions that they want? Because whoever takes Sancho on loan is probably going to have to, how much percentage of salary will be covered by the loan paying club, and will that be acceptable to Manchester United? Those are questions that need to be answered. And of course, maybe United will want a loan fee. Will somebody give that? No idea. So let's see. Let's keep an eye on that. And with that, that's the show. And we covered a few big topics. It's been a slow news day, hasn't it? There's been a lot of games though, and international games are not always exciting, but there were some interesting games. So we'll see. Maybe we'll do another video. I don't want to say that I will, but maybe I'll do another video rounding up the games, and we'll talk about that. But nonetheless, in that time, I hope you enjoyed the show. Whether if you're watching this live or whether you're watching this later, please share your comments in below. Let me know what you thought about what I've just spoken. Do you have any thoughts that you would like to add? Maybe you agreed with something that I said. Maybe you didn't agree with something I said. Put that in the comments. Always love to hear from you guys. Smash a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Smash a like if you like the content, of course. And do remember to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're getting close to 410 subscribers on YouTube. We're only 3 away. So please do subscribe. And we always appreciate your support. Always appreciate support in growing this channel. So please do that. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.